Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to TigerClawRadio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
What's going on, everybody? Yes, friends. Did you know? Did you know it's that time again? Yeah, guys. It's time for TigerClawRadio episode 257. I hope you guys had a good week. Last week we did the Monster Cast. My goodness, so I'm in like a weird place. I feel like I've taken a week off, and yet more TCR has come out in the last week than probably in the last year or so, or at least the last couple months. So we got a lot of comments to read, we got a lot of stuff to go over, we got some really good van casts that I managed to put together over the last 2 weeks. We've got a lot of fun. Okay, so I've been listening to a lot of stuff over on Bandcamp, and my interests kind of leaned over to Vaporwave, but I'm not quite ready to let that creep onto the show just yet. For starters, I want to point out an album called Master Quest 1, Press Start, from Jitterwits. This is a guy who put together a chiptune album, more traditional chiptunes, inspired by individual Nintendo games. Now, these are not covers of NES songs. These are original songs that tribute, that cite specific NES games as their tribute. There's 10 tracks on it. It's a pay-what-you-want album, so I got a copy of it, and we're going to listen to a couple of them here on the show. This first track is called Blue Chip, and it's inspired by ice hockey. All right, let's give it a listen. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. That's an abrupt stop, but that's a heck of a track. I would say I don't really get the ice hockey vibe from that track. Ice hockey was an early game in the NES library, one of those black box. No, was it a black box game? No, it was not at all. It was an earlier game in the NES library, though, that's for sure. And that sort of complex music I don't think came out until later in the NES library. None of the black box games or games from that era really had that kind of music. Very good though. I get more of an ice hockey vibe. The Ricky Kunio Downtown Neketsu hockey game that came out. We didn't get it in America. It was only in Japan. But if you've ever played emulation, it's been around for years and years and years. There was a hockey game that starred all your pals from River City Ransom. And that's a heck of a game too. I have that on the Famicom. an authentic Famicom cart. Oh yeah, and let me tell you, that's a good game. All right, boys and girls, you know what we're doing. I've been off for 2 weeks, so I got some van casting for you. Let's go back to the beginning. We're gonna climb in the time machine now. We're gonna get in the mystery machine, and Shaggy and Scooby are gonna turn back the clock for us. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Stay with us. Monday morning, it's the Vancast, everybody, and what a Monday it is. It is pitch black outside. Any hint of summer is long gone. Pitch black outside, and it's looks like it was a rainy evening because it's all wet. Got a little bit of drizzle, but nothing too bad. Time to head off to the office, get my workday done. I was able to get up early this morning and play some games, and I opted for, I'd spent all weekend playing Shadow Warrior 2. I actually got to sit down with Alex Swingle a couple of different times and play Shadow Warrior 2 on Saturday, which was amazing. It was really great. And then Sunday evening, I had about an hour, and nobody else was on, so I did a little solo work on Shadow Warrior 2. It's good stuff. So I've probably put in, I think, about 9 hours into that game, which over the course of, how long have I had this game? A week now? That's a lot in a single week for me. I understand that the amount of time that I can put, the max capacity of time that I can put into a game these days is not what it used to be. But for me, that's a lot. And it's been great. It's been pretty awesome. I discovered something about the original Shadow Warrior that I didn't know before. All right, so just a quick refresher. The original Shadow Warrior, when it was first being ported to Steam, they had a contest on Facebook where if you did like a share or a like or whatever it is, it would give you a free key to get the game for free. Well, this was of course abused, and they lost thousands and thousands of keys. So they just said, hey, you know what? The game's free now. It's free for everybody, which was great. Fast forward the clock about a couple months later, that's when the 3D Realms Mega Pack came out. Now, the 3D Realms Mega Pack contained Duke Nukem 1 and 2, Duke Nukem 3, Shadow Warrior, and a bunch of other stuff. So for that, they had a commercial edition of the same game. So just to clear things up, at this point, there was a free version of the original Shadow Warrior, and there was a pay version that was identical. Over the subsequent years, those two versions have both changed a little bit. Okay? There was a period of time where the free version carried with it a prompt screen that was like, hey, this is free. Why don't you go buy the original one? Or go buy the new one or something. Something like that. But all that's gone. I opened up the free one just out of curiosity. And what I found is the free one now has a series of prototypes. It's very weird. It's weird that they put this with the free one and not with the one that costs money. But when you first load it up on Steam, you know how some Steam games, when you open them, it'll ask you what version you want to open? The original Quake is like this. It's going to ask you if you want Quake or if you want GL Quake or if you want Quake World. Well, this asks you, hey, do you want to open the original game or do you want to open the betas and prototypes? Oh, man. And you get a menu that's of probably 10 or 15 prototypes that stretch from 1993 all the way up to 1997. And they're very, very different. Different sprite work, different enemies, everything's different. But these are like early prototypes, so you can't really fight people. You can just kind of walk around and look at some of the animations that they had completed, look at the weapons and stuff, see how different they were. This ended up being a build engine game. Shadow Warrior was a build engine game, but it looks like as a game it had been planned much prior to the Build Engine game. 1993 was before Doom even. And it shows, man. The original one looked a lot more like Ken's Labyrinth, or like Catacombs 3D or something like that. They were going with a ninja version of Catacombs 3D. That's how it started. Then there was a Doom Engine version somewhere along the line. Lots of cool stuff. And all that's in the free version, the free-to-play version of Shadow Warrior, the original Shadow Warrior. Very weird. And if you get the commercial one, they package in a source port. That's what you get for the commercial one. So it goes right to SWP, which is a source port, which will let you choose custom levels and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool, but I mean, the source port is it's free software you can just download and hook up yourself. So I guess this is just my annual reminder that the original Shadow Warrior is still free. It's free on Steam. They really stuck to their guns and they kept it free all this time. And that's pretty awesome. Last week I talked a little bit about Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I did get that installed, but the little bit of game time that I have has been going towards Shadow Warrior 2, so I haven't really played it yet. One thing I did play though is early this morning. Early this morning I got up and I fired up Space Quest. The original Space Quest from 1987, which I have in a couple iterations. I have Space Quest on Steam and GOG, and in the late 90s, when there was no real viable way to buy PC games, to buy classic PC games, and abandonware was really in its full swing. The capital cornerstone piece of abandonware at the time was Space Quest. Even if I had Space Quest already, if I found it available on a new site, I would download it. So consequently, I had like several different versions of the game with several different small changes, like things with the menu and little control quality of life improvements, that sort of thing. So it was interesting to find out when I loaded it up on Steam, the one that I paid for, it didn't have the most recent version of the original Space Quest. No mouse support, which was a little disappointing, but not such a big deal. But that was fun. I got about halfway through the game or so. I was recording a complete Let's Play. That's something that's been on my to-do list for years. Is a complete Let's Play of Space Quest and then another one of Police Quest. Well, anyway, I got about halfway through the game. I got to the part where you get the motorbike, you get the skimmer, and you got to do that mini game where you drive the skimmer to the city and you have to avoid the rocks. And that's about as far as I got. I took like 2 or 3 attempts on that little mini game, and then I was like, you know what? I don't have enough time or the energy to get all upset trying to force my way through this little mini game. So that's as far as I got in my recording. I probably should have spent the morning doing the Monster Cast. The Monster Cast is so close to complete now. That's what I should have been doing, but it's Monday, it's raining outside. If you can hear this, I'm sure this is going to come through, but the rain has now picked up to like a full downpour. It was just a little. Is it raining out right now? It might be raining. I don't know. I guess I feel it. That's what it was when I first walked to the car. Now it's like, I feel like I might have to wrap this up because it's going to interfere with the recording. Before I forget, I'll probably make a post about this on TigerClawTV.com, but the dates for the Halloween sale on Steam have been announced. It's going to be the 29th. That's when it kicks off. So there's one every year for Halloween, but the launch date is never the same. So now that we have the opening date, we know when it'll be here. Just a couple of days before Halloween, which will be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. On my get list this year, not just for the Halloween sale, but all throughout the end of year sales, I want to get the original Shadow Warrior reboot, the one that came out in 2013. After playing Shadow Warrior 2 and loving it so much, I'm interested in getting this game. It's returned me to a place where games are fun again. It's a fun game. I'm also interested in getting Tekken 7. I don't know if Tekken 7's a bit of a different story. I have a friend who just got himself full arcade stick and is into fighting games right now. And he picked up Tekken 7 sometime over the last couple days. So I kind of want to get Tekken 7, not because I think it's going to be an awesome game, but because I got a friend who has it. And if you can get into a fighting game on the entry level at the same time as a good friend, that's, I think, when fighting games are really at their peak. Because you got somebody human you can play against, somebody who's hopefully pretty close to the same level as you, and then you're all set. And then we'll be in a place where we can set up some local multi by hooking up the Panzer to a nice large monitor and doing some couch multiplayer. All right, now this is the part of the road that I'm at right now. Typically when I get here, it's, hold on, oh my goodness, 1-lane bridge in the rain. Yeah, I typically try and get quiet at this part, and now it's even more dangerous than usual because of the rain. But you know what? We made it. We did all right, boys and girls. So that's about it. I'm back into first-person shooters right now, and I don't think there's too many first-person shooters that I don't have that I think are really worth chasing down. Now, I don't have all the Call of Duty games, that's for sure, but I've got a couple of them, and so I feel like I'm covered there. The last big sale, in the summer sale, I bought Black Ops, and I probably played it for about 2 hours. So I don't need any more Call of Duty. But any classic FPS that I don't have, I would pick up. And I don't have Turok. That's one I don't have. Turok was a game that we had. My older brother in 1998, I think it was 97 or 98. I was still at home, and he got a Gateway computer. A Gateway computer with a great big CRT monitor. And with that Gateway computer was a little envelope of CDs, CD-ROM games. And I can remember the original Unreal being in that envelope. And that was my introduction to the original Unreal, as well as Turok. So we got Turok and we got Unreal at the same time. I think there was a third game as well, but I can't remember. And his computer that he got, he had it equipped with a Voodoo 3 graphics card, which was hot stuff at the time. So given our choice of video games, we dived into Unreal and left Turok pretty much untouched. I remember trying to run it and seeing what it looked like, and once I figured out that it ran, we kind of left it alone. So we played Unreal until shortly after that, my older brother bought a game called EverQuest. EverQuest is now a free game. Free MMO. But at that point, it wasn't. At that point, you had to get yourself a big box copy of the game. And let me tell you, when I say big box, I'm not kidding. The version, the box that he brought home for EverQuest was a monster. It was bigger than most big box games. It was like the thickness of 2 big box games next to each other, which was awesome.
they did a really fantastic job on the packaging of the original EverQuest. And we had a lot of fun with it. We really did. It kind of dropped off the map once World of Warcraft came around. Or maybe it wasn't even that. Maybe it was just when I moved out. We played EverQuest all the way up until I moved out when I was 17. And that was it. I think during those days, my brother would get on the computer and he would play EverQuest, like for hours and hours and hours. And then he would say, okay, Alex, your turn. And then I would get on the computer and I would play the original Quake. I remember that. He played a little Quake, but not much. It was mostly EverQuest for him. And I played a little EverQuest, but not much. It was mostly Quake for me. I would get on and open up GameSpy and look for the first server that was running 2 Forts. And I would play 2 Forts 5 in Quake World. And do the original Team Fortress. That was how I spent my days. Good times. I think the question of what would I play if I were back home right now, I think that's a pretty simple question at this point. I'd fire up the kettle, get myself some butterscotch blondie tea, sit down at my desk, and I would finish my Let's Play. Hold on. Finish my Let's Play of the original Space Quest. I feel like I was pretty close. I was at the skimmer portion, and then after the skimmer portion, then you do the like this, the slot machine. There's one part where you have to do a slot machine until you have like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The only way to do it is to save scum. So I'd finish my Let's Play of that game. I'd say I probably have about 25 more minutes of gameplay with the original Space Quest, and then it'll be all set. After that, I'd pop open the editor, get some tape and glue, and get those video chunks together, and I'd have a complete Let's Play of Space Quest. More importantly, something that's been on my to-do list, my production list for years and years. Finally have it done. Once I got all that done, I would head over to my Monster Cast folder, and I'd start working on putting that together, getting Monster Cast 2 up. Monster Cast 2 absolutely will be up this week. By the time you're listening to this, Monster Cast 2 should be available, at the very least for the supporters. That is I'm dedicated to getting that done this week. So that's it. I'm out on the road in the pouring rain and I can barely see anything, so for safety's sake, I really ought to hang this up. I'll see you guys back in Panzer Studios, where it's well lit, where it's safe, where I've got video games and hot tea and any other quality of life improvement I could imagine right now. And I'll see you guys there.
We are back in Panzer Studios. What's going on, everybody? This is the part of the show I like to set aside to thank those who are supporting us. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. Oh yeah. So to these guys, I can only offer a few things. They get the show a little bit earlier than everyone else. They get some supporter exclusive podcasting, a little bit here, a little bit there. They got the Monster Cast a couple days before everyone else. And I can offer them, I can add them to the Hall of Distinguished Gentlemen that I read off here on the show. And they are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Narabka, and the Cartridge Brothers. Thank you guys very much for sponsoring the show and for giving of your resources to make sure I keep coming back every single week. I want you to know that it really does help. It makes a huge difference. So thanks very much, and I hope you guys feel like you're getting your money's worth. All right, boys and girls, let's go back to the Jitterwits. Is that the name of it? Yeah, Jitterwits. His album, Master Quest 1, Press Start. We're going to hear another cut off of this one. So let's see. I'm thinking Infinite Lives. This is now... Okay, the last one we heard, Blue Chip, was the opening track. All right, that's the first track you're going to hear when you play this album. Now we're going to hear the very last track. This is Infinite Lives, and it says inspired by Mario Brothers, so we'll see. We're going to see. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. drops on a dime. It's clearly designed to loop, and that's why it does that. I gotta say, I don't really get the Mario Brothers vibe from this track either. Mario Brothers, I assume they're talking about Mario Brothers and not Super Mario Brothers. Very, very early game. Also, the Mario Brothers series always had sort of a ragtime jazz kind of vibe to it. Good track, but I get more like Renegade, or like or Double Dragon, or like a brawler kind of game from that song. But awesome chiptunes. This is a good album, and we're gonna check it out a little bit more later on in the program. I can't believe how much van casting is left. I cannot believe it, because let me tell you, a good bit. We're gonna go ahead and go back to the van, boys and girls. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. There's more to come.
It is, what is today, Wednesday? It's Wednesday, everybody. We're getting ready to do the van cast. It's cold. People on the radio have been saying, hey, it looks like we skipped over fall and we went right to winter. Bleh. There's no fall. We went right to winter. No, it's not that bad. It's a little bit chilly out. It's like maybe 55 degrees. That's not hey, there's a weather crisis. There's like, oh, I need to activate the seat warmer in my car. Really shouldn't be newsworthy. So I spent the morning preparing the Monster Cast 2. The file was encoded yesterday, the MP3, and I have to come up with a video version to use to post it on YouTube. So I set up the video to encode as I left the house this morning, and it's going to be 23 gigabytes to house this video for the Monster Cast. So I made up a little thumbnail, set the video encoding, and then tomorrow it will drop for the supporters. And then what I'm thinking is the next episode of TCR, Monday, the Monster Cast will release for everyone, and that will be TCR for that week. It's weird. I'm nervous about it because it's been so many years since I did the last one. But that should be something good. You ever see somebody play a game and they're like, "Oh, this is terrible. This game is no good, guys. Boys, this game is not worth your time." But for whatever reason, now you want to play that game, or now you want to buy that game. That's me right now. I want to get a copy of Sword of Sudan from for the Sega Genesis. Saw that on Bithead 1000. He did an entire 23-minute video just talking about old horror movies and equating them to Sword of Sudan. And look, I know it's going to be a bad game. It's okay. But something about it, maybe it's because I haven't bought a new Sega Genesis game in a while. And I think last year in 2017, that was the year of the Sega Genesis for me. I bought a brand new Sega, and I had just been given the Sega Flashback, and I got a bunch of brand new Sega cartridges. That's when I really got into like ROM hacks and getting reproduction carts of some of the top shelf Sonic the Hedgehog ROM hacks, like the level remixes and stuff. That was the year of the Sega Genesis for me. But I haven't really got a Sega game, I think, since then, and we're getting ready to wrap up 2018. So maybe it's time, and maybe Sword of Sudan is the game to do it. The game to represent the entire Sega Genesis library is Sword of Sudan. Funny how that works out, huh? I also saw a video from Jerry Terrifying, which is pretty awesome. I think it's the first time in a while I caught a Jerry Terrifying video on release. He covered Alien vs. Predator, I think for the Help me out, Jerry. What system was that for? Was that SNES? It was a beat 'em up, and it was a good video, man. It's nice to see Jerry making videos again. Jerry was the king of our group, you know. It's nice to see him come back and let us know he's still around. So I know that video's over on MondoCoolcast.com. I'm going to try and get it posted on my site as well. Although I don't know how much that's going to help his views, since we're pals with most of the same people. But, you know, it's really just about... Hang on a second, it's drive time. It's really just about showing support. You know what I'm saying? So that was a good video, a video that I think clocks in at 5 minutes and 24 seconds or something like that. Something very watchable. Seems like every video now is like 15 minutes plus. There's very few like short videos anymore. That, and he was. I also remember him being pretty objective. So, you know, when people take a game that they played and liked as a kid and then have to revisit it as an adult, it can be a difficult thing to do, to look at software like that objectively and really set aside your nostalgia and be like, okay, these are the flaws with the program. This is what I liked about it, this is what I didn't like about it, and more importantly, this is how those two things weigh out. So it's kind of cool to see that in action, especially about a game that I wasn't familiar with. So it's like, to see a review for something like Kirby's Dream Land or Double Dragon, it's like, okay, I've played those games a bunch of times. I'd like to hear your opinion on it, but it's not like it's going to weigh in on whether or not I need to buy the game. Alright, so here's one for you. If I were back home, what would I be doing? If I didn't have to go to work today. Well, typically I'd pick out a video game. What game would I play? But in that case, in this case, it wouldn't be a video game. I would want to watch John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978 or 79 or whatever that came out. I watched the first 5 minutes of that movie this morning before I left the house, and I hadn't seen it in years. When I was a teenager, a girl I was dating at the time showed it to me. We watched it like the VHS tape on a tiny little TV, and that was the only time I had ever seen it. So that was probably like 20 years ago. Oh, hang on, busy intersection. Hang on a second. All right, I wasn't expecting to see this many cars out. And now I'm stuck behind a school bus. Oh my gosh, these school buses. Look, I get it. They're school buses. They gotta go slow. But can't they just like pull over and let people by every once in a while? Alright. Not gonna complain about getting caught behind school buses at 6:39 in the morning. Let's go back to a happy place. What I would be doing back home. So I want to watch this movie on Halloween. You know, it's October. It's that time of year. Haven't seen it in forever, and I don't think I ever saw the second one either. I know that Halloween is a series, or it's like, from what I understand, the first two movies are the only movies that you have to that you pay attention to, and then you just let the rest, like, pretend the rest didn't exist or something like that. I think that's how it works. So that would be fun. That would be a fun way, you know, to celebrate Halloween in October. This is an important time of the year for me. My son has an October birthday, and then we got Halloween and the Steam sales. The Steam sales are scheduled to come out on the 29th this year. The date has been released. This is not like a rumor. This was confirmed by Valve. So on the 29th, we'll get some holiday sales from Steam. So I would imagine I get a little something nice every year. The Halloween sales, like I was looking back at my like what I had got when, and the Halloween sales, it seems like, are never really huge for me. I get a couple of things here and a couple of things there, but it's really the winter sale. It's really the Christmas sale. That's the big one. So we'll see. You never know. Maybe I'll get some Dead by Daylight DLC, or maybe something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll finally pull the trigger and get Killing Floor 2. I was a huge Killing Floor fan, and I never bought the second game. You never know. But that's what I would do if I were back home, is watch a movie. Because I don't watch many movies anymore, and I kind of wish I did. Well, alright, boys and girls. I have got to deal with driving to work. I'll see you guys back in the studio.
We are back in Panzer Studios. It's nice. It's quiet. It's safe and sound here. And we're getting ready to hear another track from the Jitterwits album, Master Quest 1 Press Start. This is the fourth track. This one's called Strange Dreams, and it is inspired by Astyanax. I gotta tell you, Astyanax, you're setting the bar pretty high. We're gonna see what we got. Listen with me. This is TigerClaw Radio. All right, boys and girls, you're getting ready to hear the final Vancast for the week, and then we'll be all caught up. Stick with me. This is TigerClaw Radio.
Oh boy, good morning. It is, what is today? Wednesday? It's Wednesday morning. And let me tell you, it's cold out. We're looking at maybe 29 degrees. Scraping the windshield. I got the seat warmer on, and I'm off to work. This is week 2. Last week the MonsterCast came out, so I took a week off of regular TCR so that I could produce the MonsterCast and get it out. So I've spent every night for the past week or 2 playing Wizardry 6. Good old Wizardry. Now something's something kind of unique happens when I play that game that I noticed. What I've done is I've got I bought a notebook of graph paper so that I could manually get the maps. I printed the map for the first floor because that came in the instruction manual back in the day. but I've been doing my maps by hand. So when I do my maps by hand, oh, hang on. You tend to navigate by the map and not by the actual game. Case in point, let's talk about Diablo. Remember the original Diablo? How long has it been since you played that game? It's been a while for me, but I remember when you played Diablo, once you clear out a stage and you're just navigating back through the stage, hang on, I think this might be my inn right here. When you're navigating back through the stage that you've already beaten, what tends to happen is I look at the mini-map and I'm navigating, I'm using the mini-map to play the game and focusing on that more than the actual game. There's certain games where I essentially just play by looking at the mini-map. Dungeon Hack is one of those games. Dungeon Hack was a game that was built with Eye of the Beholder. It was built on the Eye of the Beholder engine, but they made it randomized every time you play. But they added a mini-map, and the mini-map is so powerful, it's better to just look at the mini-map when you play the game and not the actual depiction of the dungeon. So when I play Wizardry 6, I've made this map that I tend to use to navigate the dungeon more than the actual image of the dungeon itself. So here I am using this map that I created to navigate the dungeon. And yes, it takes a long time to create one of these things, but when you start using it as the sole purpose of navigation, it makes it feel more like I'm running around in a dungeon that I have designed. Even though it's an illusion, even though that feeling is smoke and mirrors, it's a pretty sweet feeling. It's very unique to making a map by hand. Alright, hold on. I'm going to run into the grocery store for a second. Alright. This is part 2 of Wednesday morning. I just got out of the grocery store. Got some hot tea. Oh, hang on. Green light. Got some hot tea, and I got an Archie comic book for my son. It's got the Halloween on the cover. Archie's got himself a jack-o'-lantern. Or something. I don't know. It's in the bag now. Don't take a look at it. But, yeah, so that's cool. And speaking of Halloween, by the time this has come out, the 29th has already come and gone. So, how are you doing in the Steam sales? If you're not big into Steam, is your retailer offering any decent discounts for Halloween? I'm very much a Steam guy, and also GOG.com. So this time of year is big for me. Steam's gonna have its sale starting the 29th. And then a month later there'll be Thanksgiving, and then a month later it'll be Christmas. So this is the big season, one of the two, winter season and then summer season, the two major times to pick up Steam games. My get list is pretty short. I want to get a copy of the original Shadow Warrior remake from 2013. I got Shadow Warrior 2 on GOG.com for free about 3 weeks ago, and I love it. It's such a good game. I wish I'd played it more over the last week, but it's so good. They gave it out for free, so I got a copy, and Swingle had a copy already, and Darabka got a copy. So when we can, we play the three of us, if we can. Just shooting stuff and getting loot and having a good time. It's a great game, man. It really is. So, so that's Shadow Warrior 2. So I want to get Shadow Warrior 1. But not the original Shadow Warrior, because I have that, the remake. That game, from what I see, looks almost as awesome. Like, it's just as awesome a game, but when Shadow Warrior 2 came out, they fixed a couple things. For example, it looks like the original Shadow Warrior remake has that Half-Life style loading time where you're in a nice big area, you have a nice big zone to explore, but once you cross from over a certain line, the game has to stop and load, so it can unload the previous section of the level and load up the next section. Not the worst thing in the world, but they managed to fix that in Shadow Warrior 2. I never have that when I'm playing through Shadow Warrior 2. So you know, as Swingle put it when I talked to him, little quality of life improvements. That was the way he put it, and I think those are good words to use when describing this thing. All right, now give me a second. What I would like to do is see if I can get the air conditioner, or the heater rather, to drop down a little bit so that it doesn't interfere with the recording quite as much. All right, and there we go. All right, we are driving again. Let's see, so the last time I did one of these, I think I was going on and on about pachinko. Still, I was in this major pachinko kick. And I still love pachinko, but I think it started to die down somewhat. I ordered like a bunch of pachinko games from Japan, and then they showed up, and I started going through them. And I think I ordered probably like 5 pachinko games for the Game Boy, plus 2 for the Super Famicom. And I only really found one that I like to play. Which is fine, but what really bums me out is what happened is once these games showed up, I wanted to try, hey, I had a pachinko game already. I had one for the Wonder Swan. So I got it out and I put it in, and something is happening with my Wonder Swan where the middle of the screen is all darkened. So it's like there's this great big giant nebula in the middle of my screen, and it's really hard to see. I don't know what happened. I haven't been abusing it. It went into a box, and I didn't play it for a couple of years, and I pulled it out, and then there's this big spot in the middle of the screen. And that's not the only thing that's happened. The price of the Wonder Swan has also increased by quite a lot. I got my Wonder Swan for about $15, and it's like $30 for me to get a replacement. So I don't know, maybe it's not just mine, maybe like a bunch of them have broken and died off. But it's a shame because the pachinko game I have on it is pretty smooth, it's a pretty nice game. So, you know, whatever. I have 3 games for the Wonder Swan, and I think they may be the only 3 games that you can play just without knowing Japanese. I had a baseball game called Fantasy. It was a Family Stadium, not Fantasy Stadium. Family Stadium. It was a baseball game. Plays a lot like Bases Loaded. Oh, hang on a second. I'm in the wrong lane. And then I also had this pachinko game. And then I had a game called Gunpei, which is like a little top-down puzzle game where you have to draw a line using puzzle pieces. None of those games required Japanese, all pretty cool. And then there was also a wizardry game that came out for the Wonder Swan where you could switch it over to English. So that's 4 games that I knew of that you could play without knowing Japanese. But those were the only 4 games. And I did a little emulation of the Wonder Swan to try and explore the library a little bit. Not a whole heck of a lot of English on that system. But, you know, what are you going to do? And it sucks because the Wonder Swan was such a cool system. Oh my gosh. It was like a little Game Boy that only took 1 battery, but then you turned it on its side and it was in Tate mode. Oh, that's another game. There was another game that was a spiritual successor to Radiant Silvergun, but I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Justice Silver Sword, that was it. Justice Silver Sword is an awesome game. That's a Wonder Swan game. Wonder Swan Color, I believe. They re-released it on Steam, so you can get it on Steam for like $2.50, but I think the actual Wonder Swan cartridge is like $100. That's an awesome game. A shmup that utilizes that Tate mode. That would be amazing to play on an actual Wonder Swan. So that's been gaming for me for the past week. There were a few odd moments where I sat down with some random things. Like, I turned on my Sega Genesis and I was flipping through cartridges. Haven't done that in a little while. I love the Sega, but I did a huge Sega phase like a year ago. So lately I've been giving it a rest. But I turned it back on over the past week, and I put in Valis 3. And Valis 3 is such a cool game. It's like a dime store Castlevania. It's not as good as a Castlevania game, but it's not as hard either. It's very cool. Very cool indeed. But there's no way to continue or anything like that. And I played it on my authentic Sega Genesis, so it's not like I had save states. So I played that for like, I don't know, a half an hour. And then it's not like I reached an impasse. It's just one of those moments where I only had a half an hour to play a game. So putting that cartridge in is like, I know there's no way I'm going to finish this, nor am I going to die. I'm just going to play until I run out of time and then switch the power off. It's a very melancholy feeling, but it was cool. That's a cool game. I like the Valis series. Well, boys and girls, I'm getting ready to get on the highway here. And I try and get off here before I can get on the highway. If I were back home, what would I be playing? And you know what? After this conversation, I kind of want to play Pachinko on the Game Boy. Especially since I've been so into Bandcamp lately, listening to like Vaporwave albums and stuff, just finding new music for the show and just new music in general to be into. I would put on some Vaporwave albums and play Pachinko on my Game Boy. That's what I would do. I'll see you guys back in the studio. I gotta go do my day.
I'm cranking this up just a little bit. How we doing? I think the first part of the show might have been a little bit quiet. My kids play with my soundboard quite a lot. So a lot of the times I have to check it before I go on the air, before I make a video, and if I don't, something happens to the sound. The needles are jumping way more than they were. It looks like it should be okay. I think we're in good shape. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. I'm your host, Critical Failure. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. It's going to be a jumbo show today because we're 55 minutes in. It's time to play. It's time to wrap things up, and I haven't even got started yet. Look at this. I got 2 weeks worth of comments, questions, a lot of interactions from you guys, a lot of really good points that I'm waiting to get into. It's like the old talk show format on late night TV a long time ago. It's terrible now, but jokes for 30 minutes, and then the latter half of the show was all discussions. Well, we just went over to Johnny Carson's couch, and we're going to hang out for a while. First one's from Hemrock, and this is an email he wrote 9 days ago. So this one was destined to be on last week's TCR, which didn't happen in lieu of the Monstercast. By the way, if you didn't catch the Monstercast, that was an 8-hour podcast. 8 hours. A bunch of different interviews. A big-time snapshot of last year for me. And I'm kind of shocked at how it was received. These episodes on YouTube, they usually garner about 15 plus views. Monstercast 2 has hit 27 in 4 days, which is like low numbers for YouTube, but for me, that's a lot. Not to mention, we're talking about like watch time on an 8-hour episode. The reception for Monstercast 2 has been better than expected. I thought this thing was going to come out with a whimper. I thought maybe 1 or 2 people were going to grab the MP3, and that was going to be that. But it actually has I'm very pleased. I'm really glad you guys have been enjoying it. So let's read Hemrock's email, and then we got Monstercast comments, and then we got comments from episode 256. Hemrock writes, "Salutations, CF. Thanks for another amazing podcast. I too wish the MTG game for the Dreamcast got localized in the US. However, I've read that it's not really that great anyway, as the AI is rather silly. The story mode is relatively short, and there are only 354 cards in the game. With that said, I'd still be worth giving it a go. The FAQ available on GameFAQs mentions the game is playable to non-Japanese speakers, as long as you're familiar with the cards. On a side note, I wonder if the Google Translate phone app might come in handy for something like this." All right, we're going to take a break from the email right quick. Couple of things I want to say. First and foremost, using the Google Translate phone app, camera phone app on a video game is brilliant. I didn't think of that before, but I got a number of games I'd like to try that on, specifically some of my Pachinko games for the Game Boy. It's like, I just want to figure out if I can get a piece of paper and write down what the menus are, and I could navigate them myself, because I play those games often enough that it would be nice to know, you know? Some of those options are like auto shoot the ball, so you don't really get to shoot the ball, or lock down the pressure gauge, things like that. Things you need to know. So like, when I first put in a pachinko game, I'm usually turning it off and turning it back on again like 5 times before I can figure out exactly what the menu options I have to press in order to play it are. Yeah, so that's a brilliant idea. But back to Magic the Gathering. You said 354 cards in that set. I think M19, the M19 set, do I have one of those cards in front of me? Let's see. I might. Bear with me one second, guys. They put on the cards, yeah, okay, here's M19. M19 had 280 cards in the entire set, okay? I don't know what the other sets had because I don't have them in front of me. I mean, this is an M19 card in a stack of mostly revised and unlimited cards. So you said what, 354? So it's got one set, one core set, probably a nice hefty core set, whatever the core set was at the time. I'm going to assume 6th edition, maybe 7th edition, something like that. 1990, when did you say that came out? 1997, probably 6th edition, because 5th or 6th, because it took time in development. So yeah, I imagine a long-time Magic player would probably spot the images right away and know what they are. And of course, Magic the Gathering, right? Certain things you'd be able to just pick up on, like casting cost. That's all done with symbols, that sort of thing. Now I want to give that a try again, just to give it a try again, you know? Let's get back to the email. Speaking of MTG, I do want to make a quick clarification. MTG on the PS1 is different from the one on the OG Xbox. The PlayStation version is called Magic the Gathering Battle Mage, whereas the Xbox game is called Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds. Subtle name difference, huge gameplay difference. I've not personally played the PS1 title, although I've watched some video of the game, which looks like a train wreck, whereas the OG Xbox one is a lot of fun. Although, it's not a true Magic the Gathering game. Alright, quick break from the email. I knew that the games were different, like, that they're what do you call it? I knew they were different games between the PS1 and the Xbox game. I didn't know they were actually called different things. I thought they like both had the same name, but were really different games for one reason or another. So that's interesting. Back to the email. He writes, anywho, that is an awesome idea to play Duel Masters at MagFest. I'll make sure to bring my GBA SP and the link cable. This also gives me more incentive to get further in the game. Nice top 5 games of all time. I enjoyed that countdown. Thanks, man. Have you ever heard of the Eador series? It's a Russian strategy game that looks like Civilization and Heroes of Might and Magic had a baby. It has been fully translated to English and is available on GOG. All right, going to take a quick break from the email. Here's what I want to do, Hemrock, because I have heard of that one. I'm shooting over to my GOG, or not GOG. I'm shooting over to my Steam collection right now because I'm pretty sure this is available there as well. Eador. Yeah, I've got a couple of them. Purchased in 2013, so I've had these for a while. I've got Eador Masters of the Broken World, and I've got Eador Genesis. Those were purchased 8/13, so not in either one of the major sales. They look cool enough, though. One has one has achievements and one doesn't. I'd have to take a look into it and figure out which is the first game of these two and which one I'd rather play. But yeah, I don't know anything about the game except that I do know that it's been on sale for virtually nothing on Steam before, and I do have a copy of it. Alright, let's get back to the email, which I have minimized, and now I have to find. Bear with me, I'm struggling. And here we go. Your video of Jetpack has got me into playing some old DOS games. Having a program to make keystrokes into gamepad buttons has really helped me better enjoy some of those games like Jetpack. If you're ever looking for a Joy-to-Key Linux equivalent, try QJoyPad. Speaking of Linux, any thoughts on returning to Linux as a primary OS in the near future? What are some easy-to-obtain DOS games you'd recommend? I tip my metaphorical cup of granulated sugar in your general direction. Keep rolling retro, Hemrock. P.S. My last postscript, I linked a demotivational poster of the Kool-Aid Man. You didn't mention it on the show, so I figured you have missed the link. Here it is again, as you may get a laugh out of it. Let's take a look. And we've got a big broken wall with a cardboard picture of Kool-Aid Man taped up against it. That's pretty sweet. Opportunity sometimes is just too good to pass up. Oh yeah! All right, let's get back into this. This is the very last comment he made, or the question he made. He was talking about DOS games. Yeah, so I made a video about Jetpack. There was a Jetpack too. I didn't think one ever came out, and I'm tempted to buy it. But the only way to buy it is like directly from the publisher, and you just get a zip you can download. So it's not like from any of the reputable games dealers. On the other hand, that would mean, very likely mean, a DRM free download. It's $15 though, which is steep for a game like that. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm thinking about it. Jetpack was a fun game, and I liked making that video. In terms of other easily obtainable MS-DOS games, let's take a look. Bear with me. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I have my MS-DOS folder open. I'm not actually navigating around DOSBox, but just looking at some of the things I have. I've got a program called Valet, V-A-L-E-T, which in my mind is a must. That's like a simple file tree program. If you want to use DOSBox, but you want to get around using the command prompt, but you don't want to take time to program menus, it just gives you a file tree, and you can use the cursor keys to navigate it. So Valet is one that I use. But you're asking about games. What are the games that I have that I like? Panzer General is always a must-have for me. The original Panzer General is not available on GOG, even though many of the spin-offs are. The sequel, Panzer General 2, is available on GOG, Fantasy General, Pacific General, but not the original, and I don't know why. So Panzer General is on my list. Epic Pinball I've had forever, but now that's available on GOG. What here is not available on GOG? Okay, Jill of the Jungle, and this one really baffles me. Jill of the Jungle is perfect. Actually, you know what? Let's go over to Steam and GOG right now to see if this is available, because if you don't have Jill of the Jungle and it's not available, that would be one to chase. All right, so we're in Steam. We're going to check it out. Jill of the Jungle. And we're taken to a game called Ranger of the Jungle with mostly negative reviews. Okay, so they don't have it there. Heading over to GOG.com. We're going to see if they can do any better. This game must have come up. There's no way they missed it. It was the final the final work of Tim Sweeney before he left game development and got into whatever else it is he does, working on the Unreal Engine and stuff like that. All right. Jill of the Jungle. No results found. No results found, man. Get yourself a copy of Jill of the Jungle. You want to keep it legit? Get the shareware version. Shareware version is a 10-episode game. It's a good game. All right, it's a good game, and I played it recently in life, like in the last year, and I really liked it. That's another one. The top of my list, though, for games to play on MS-DOS is the original Castle Wolfenstein, not Wolfenstein 3D, not the first-person shooter, the original Castle Wolfenstein for MS-DOS. That was a top-down game, where you had a little stick figure, and you would look through chests, and you would like hold people hostage, and you'd search bodies for ammo and stuff, and the castle was randomly generated every time. Oh my gosh, it was so good. The controls were really awkward because, I mean, it's old, and a lot of the conventions for how a game should be designed or how a game should be played on the computer, a lot of that stuff wasn't set in stone yet. But it's an awesome game, and it's not available anywhere. So I don't know what you're going to do. You're going to have to do some Google searching, get yourself a zip file. That's one. Good old Castle Wolfenstein, Jill of the Jungle. Right there you have an awesome evening of video games. That and Panzer General. I've got more here, but then they get a little bit more obscure. I have a game called Niet that's really special to me. It's a Tetris clone for MS-DOS, but that one I have because my dad played it a lot, and I had a copy of Niet with a high scoreboard from when I was a kid that had entries from my dad on it, and it had entries from my older brother that I don't get to talk to very much anymore. So that's like a personal game. But if you just went and downloaded it, it would be like, this is like an MS-DOS clone of Tetris. So there's that. There's another game called Beast, which is very, very similar story. My dad played it when I was a kid, and he's gone now, so I remember it well. But it's just a little top-down game with ASCII graphics, and there's not much to it. Clicking around here to see what else we got. They've actually done a really good job at bringing a lot of this to making a lot of it available. Oh, here's another one for you that's really awesome. The Pinball Construction Set. This was one of the early videos I did, as the little face on Tiger Claw TV. I love pinball. I love it. And this is, still to date, this is the best game for creating pinball tables of your very own. Bill Budge made this for Commodore 64, and it was ported to MS-DOS in the 80s. And you might remember the game Virtual Pinball for the Sega Genesis, which allowed you to make pinball games. Guess what? That's Bill Budge. That's his baby again. So an amazing game. And that's you could create pinball tables, and once you created the pinball table, you could export that pinball table as a self-sustaining executable, and then you had the rights to distribute those pinball tables. No other game like that has ever been made, ever. There have been a couple of games that try. We had a game called Pinball Builder, which came out in the late '90s in the CD-ROM era, but it was really restricted. And when you made tables, you had to have Pinball Builder in order to make them work. There's a game called Visual Pinball, which is made in the spirit of PCS, but you have to know Visual Basic to do it because there's a lot of scripting that goes on behind the scenes. Right? You lay out bumpers, you lay out stuff like that, but they don't have the behaviors written into them. You got to kind of make them work. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. So Pinball Construction Set, that's another really good one. I could talk about this all day. I'm just looking at this list of just awesome games. The Zork games. If you ever really feel like you want to go back in time, get yourself a piece of paper and make a map and play Zork. You got to try it at least once. At least once. All right. I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole that I don't have time to explore right now. Oh, here's another one. Cave Quest. CAVEQUEST, 2 words. It's not one of the Sierra games like Space Quest or King's Quest. Cave Quest. It's a top-down exploration game. You got to drop the cycles down. This is the thing. Some of these games you have to be able to. I think it's Control-Alt F11 will drop the PC cycles. DOSBox, when you first load it up, it defaults to 5,000 PC cycles. And there's some of these old games from the 1980s that they're not designed. The speed of the gameplay is not regulated in any way. It just runs as fast as the PC can run cycles. So what would happen was you'd get a computer in the late 80s or the early 90s, and you'd play a game that was developed in 1985, and the game would run too fast, right? And you couldn't play it because it would just be like, game over, game over. Pinball Construction Set is one of those games. If you want to play Pinball Construction Set, you're going to have to hold Control Alt F11, drop the PC cycles down to about 400. From 5,000 down to 400. That'll give you a numerical idea of how this thing ran. Cave Quest is one of those games. And I believe that's freeware as well. So, all right, I'm getting off MS-DOS games right now because I could spend another hour just going on and on about these. All right. We've just gone through the first comment. So big thanks to Hemrock for the email. I always get lots of good content out of those emails. So thanks, man. Appreciate it. And I apologize for making you wait 9 days. I hope you didn't get the impression that I missed your email. All right, boys and girls. So here's a problem I'm noticing on YouTube. When you guys leave comments, on the Monstercast, there are 4 comments. It says 4 comments. It only shows me 3. And I had to do some digging, but I found out if I go in through the Creator Studio, I can see what they're hiding. And they hid Death Adder's comment, which makes me mad because I was... He posted a comment like as soon as this thing went up, and I was so happy. It made me feel like the whole thing wasn't going unnoticed. So Death Adder writes, I'm so freaking stoked for this. I'll try to have some comments by the end of the week. Death Adder, my man, take your time, brother. It's 8 hours long. It would take me 3 weeks, I think, to get through it. A week and a half, something like that, because I listen to podcasts and stuff during my commute. But it's long. I don't expect anybody to have listened to this thing in one night. Please, take your time. Don't feel like you have to get through the whole thing either. It's a fun thing. It's not homework, so I appreciate it. Caslib208 writes, just finished listening to the entirety of MonsterCast 2 a few minutes ago and thoroughly enjoyed it. My man. It was nice to hear the old guests from the first one showing up again, just to see how they were doing after 8 years. Also, it was nice to finally figure out what the Phoenix was regarding the Triverse, and finally hearing the conclusion of what the saga was between Pure Solar and Hemrock. Good listen. Can't wait for MonsterCast 3 in 2026. Thanks, man. I'm sorry it took so long. That was from Balzac, and we got one from Mecha Menace, who writes, it's great hearing the time capsule. I wonder how current Jerry relates to younger Jerry. Does he have the same notations about parenthood? I can add a Gasoling tip for those times when people pull out their phones. It's not necessarily death knell for negotiations. It depends on the person running the sale. Oh, I see. Garage sailing. He mashed garage sailing into a single word, so it's Gasoling. I can add a garage sailing tip for those people who pull out their phones. It's not necessarily a death knell for negotiations. It depends on the person running the sale and how much of a rapport you've worked up in the short time you've been at the sale. Also, age is a huge factor. Teens are way less likely to be negotiate. But with the others sidle up to that old lady, have a good chat with that dude, and you have a better chance of convincing them that they're going through the trouble of selling it online. Pictures, fees, going up to the post office, paying for shipping. It's a lot of effort, and selling it now to someone who wants it can take away from the current condition. Is a lot easier. Also, when helping them out to find their price on the phone, throw them the name of a game in the pile you know is not worth crap. The most likely, they will not look up every single game. It was great hearing from Jerry. Jerry throw compliments my way. If only it weren't cut short from technical difficulties, I might have been able to bask in the endless loop of warm praise from the Podfather. CF, how could you stop at the oil ocean? The music is awesome. You know what? I'm going to take a break from this comment real quick. You know how I could stop at the oil ocean? Because I can't beat it. The game makes that decision for me. That's how. Let's get back to the comment. He writes, Kaiser, VidMe never had a chance, nor do the other services like Dailymotion, etc. The reason is they don't play ball with other players. Do you think that YouTube, if YouTube continued to leave copyright claimers out of the loop, they would have financial support from the same sponsors? I also believe Google's incorporation only pushed its relevance to potential users. And he says, mouth sounds, Darabka and TCR. Maybe it was because the first segment of an 8-hour talkathon, or maybe it was because it was simply Jerry Terrifying, but there was a silly exuberance when co-hosting TCR with Jerry Terrifying. My comments sure dropped off a cliff after Darabka's segment. Man, I'm glad you listened to it. I appreciate the feedback, and yeah, it was good talking to Jerry again. I would love to have him back on a regular episode of TCR, and we'll have to see. He's daddy now. We've seen the baby on camera. He's doing okay, so I'd love to hear how his perception has changed on some of those things. All right, boys and girls, here's what we're gonna do. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear a track, and then we're going to head over to last week's TCR and read the comments. Give me a second to fish this out here. All right. This is Aloe Island Posse. All right. So here's the deal. Aloe Island Posse was a quote-unquote future funk artist on Bandcamp. And there's 3 albums from this guy. And let me tell you, solid gold. The Bandcamp page charges $1 per album, but each page also has a link to a link to like a Rapid Share or one of those types of pages, a Mediafire or something like that, where you can just download the album. I think he was forced into citing a price because Bandcamp will only let you give away so many downloads in a month, and I think he hit that cap. But this is Aloe Island Posse. This is the lead-off track. It's called 2 Star, and the album is called Midnight Selects. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now we gotta get a posse together. I love a good posse.
What's the appeal of the posse?
The appeal of the posse? Posse has tremendous appeal.
Because you think you can beat me.
other champions can never beat him. Sang Quan Cheng is a quite brilliant fighter.
Aloe Island Posse. Let me tell you guys, that's worth looking up. Because what an album. What a series of albums. My gosh. You're going to hear more of that on TCR, that's for sure. Makes me want to go back and play Vigilante 8. Remember Vigilante 8? I know the crowd listening to this knows that game. Alright, so if we jump back 2 weeks, we've got, let's see. Got a few comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not too bad. Alright, let's see if we can sort this in chronological order. And we'll start with the oldest and read upwards. Alright, I got my tea here. Okay. The following is from 1 week ago from my good buddy Alex Swingle. He writes, at minute 14, in regards to the 2006 edition of Wolfenstein DVD-ROM, get the console version for $15 to $20, either on PS3 or 360. Problem solved. It has no real replay value, but the first 5 levels are great and worth checking out. The rest of the game is all about spamming your superpowers, making it hella lame. You know what? I read this when you first posted, and that's an amazing idea. Except, these days I have a hard time with first-person shooters on consoles. Being a PC gamer for so long, I did go back to them for the Cartridge Club maybe 3 or 4 months ago when they did Halo. And I didn't have the original Halo, so I played Halo 2, and I had a great time. Like, I had a really great time playing Halo 2. So maybe it would work. Maybe that would work. The only problem with that is I already ordered something fun this week. When I talk to Darabka, oftentimes the Tim and Eric Awesome Show, Great Job, comes up, and I've never watched it before. And we tried to shuffle around some links so that I could watch it online, because this is a show he talks about a lot. And I just said, forget it. I'm tired of the links. I'm tired of go to this website. I just ordered Season 1 DVD of Tim and Eric Awesome Show, Great Job. That was like $5, $5.25, something like that. Very, very inexpensive. You know, DVDs are not a thing that people really get anymore, making them a prime thing to get. So, I've got a DVD burner in my tower that I built so I can watch those comfortably here in Panzer Studios when they show up. So maybe next week when I'm ordering games again, I'll check it out. But that is an awesome idea. Death Adder, 1 week ago, he writes, at 19 minutes and 55 seconds, Foray Divin, Lifeline sounds awesome. Welcome to my MP3 collection. TCR started the day Obama came into office. Illuminati confirmed. Hashtag thanks Obama. This random website says, in 2009, 20% digital and 80% physical. He's talking about the distribution of video games. So they were 20% digital and 80% physical. Okay. In 2017, they're 79% digital and 21% physical. Now, you know what they say about statistics. The old quote from Mark Twain, there are 3 kinds of lies, damn lies, and statistics. And we know how easily they're manipulatable, and whenever someone says, studies have shown, you really got to call those things into question. So let's say these numbers have plenty of play in terms of margin for error. That's staggering. If these numbers are even close to reality, that is absolutely staggering. I guess I would believe it, though. Physical games are still a thing. I mean, we've got as the Switch, right? If you got a Nintendo Switch, you're buying physical games. Now, you're probably buying an awful lot of downloads too, which is where the numbers could be swayed a little bit. So, like, you would buy a couple of AAA games for the Switch, which would be physical copies of games you'd have, like Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey. But then each one of those, you'd probably buy 3 or 4 smaller game downloads from their shop as well. So who knows? I don't know. I don't have a Nintendo Switch. I'm kind of making that up. Who knows? But that's pretty staggering. Let's go back to the comment. He also writes, rip everyone with slow internet and small hard drives. Yep. I'm looking forward to the Monster Cast, and I shall ready a Google Doc for all my replies. I can't wait for those replies. Here's another thing, Death Adder. Just because I went over the Monster Cast comments, I'll still read those on the air when they come in. He says, in your best Kool-Aid Man voice, can we get, hey, Freak Show, you're going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. All right. When I first read this, I thought it was like something that the Ultimate Warrior would say, but that's not the case. So hold on, I got to take my earphones off for this one because it's going to be trying on the throat. So here comes the Kool-Aid Man breaking through his Oh yeah! Hey Freak Show, you're going nowhere. I've got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. Ah. That's how I break through my problems. Oh, yeah! Like the Kool-Aid Man. And then I snap it to a Slim Jim. And that's Death Adder's comment, which got thumbed up by somebody. I'll thumb that one up again. Heart. First thing you mentioned, Foray Divin, Lifeline. That was an awesome track. It was indeed. And that was like, finding that album was like the peak, or the tip of the iceberg, getting into synthwave music, which is something I've listened to an awful lot in the last week. An awful lot. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that track as well, because that's some hot stuff. All right, now we got a couple from Mecha Menace. To what Wolfenstein are you referring to that's $50? The PS3/360 version from 2009 is $10 complete. I remember playing Return to Castle Wolfenstein on PC back in 2001. It was Wolfenstein plus occult stuff like ghosts and zombies. Wow, I just found out they ported it to PS2 in 2016. Hang on, my phone's buzzing. Alright, we're going to do this on the air because I'm tired of... Yeah, there we go. Awesome. We're good. I found out they ported it to PS2 in 2006. Whoa. Might like to get a copy of that. I believe the crazy timeline begins with the 2009 reboot. I haven't played that one, but it looks more like it takes some stuff from 2001 reboot, like fighting ghosts or zombies. I forget. It's been a while since I watched the CGR review. I do remember CGR drooling over the flamethrower, but not liking the rest. And there is a read more button, so bear with me. It's a non sequitur, but hey, I just found out there was a point-and-click Batman Returns adventure game released on PC, including fighting segments. Check it out. All right. We're going to click on this YouTube link and see what we got. Man, I really want to get that Wolfenstein. It stopped me in my tracks. The sound card, the Sound Blaster music theme song on this trailer stopped me dead in my tracks. I'm looking at footage of what looks like an MS-DOS Batman game. PC game 1992, Batman Returns. And it's got a lot of screen tearing and glitching. We're looking at credits rolling. I'm trying to fast forward to some play. Oh yeah, look at that. Point and click for sure. Point and click in a good way, not in the telegames kind of way. This looks more like Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Crusade, Lucasfilm type point and click, not Telltale Games type point and click. Yeah, this looks awesome. I don't think any of the digital distribution services have this, and I imagine it would be difficult for them to get a hold of it because of licensing, I guess. I don't know. It looks sweet. I'll have to dig it up. Thanks, Mecha Menace. That's pretty awesome, dude. We got another one from Mecha Menace who writes, I came back to throw you a link because your chip beats love. I found Gecko Yamori, now under the name Savage Regime, and he gives me a YouTube link. You don't know who Gecko is? Check out his genocided covers of Super Metroid and Mega Man X3. He does original tracks and those which use other chips, but he mainly focuses on the Yamaha chips available in the 80s. All right, let's see. Savage Regime. There he is. 3.8 thousand subscribers on YouTube. He's got a lot of tracks here, a lot of videos that are just shots of a tracker. Like Fama-Tracker, but not actually Fama-Tracker. And then that's the song. And you can hear the tracker just rattling off the sequence. It sounds great. I wonder what software he uses. I'd have to find a Bandcamp page or something like that to actually play it here on the air. But yeah, this is awesome. I'll subscribe to this guy. Thanks, man. He does original tracks too, but he mainly focuses on the Yamaha chips available in the 80s. It sounds very... The track that I played in my ear sounds very 90s dance music. Very come on, ride the train and ride it kind of thing. And then we go to my boy, Sendu, who writes, I'm not mad at G&DB for wanting to focus on their lives. I just wish they'd given us some kind of farewell. Heck, even a 2-minute vlog saying, thanks for years of support. These were these were the final 2 worst consoles. That would have been enough. You know what? I agree, but at the same time, you got to look at it from their perspective. When Gooch and the Douchebag stopped doing their show, I don't think they ever wanted to stop doing their show. As far as they were concerned, when they merged with Classic Leet, that's what Gooch and the Douchebag became. So I think in their eyes, Gooch and the Douchebag still exists, and it's called Classic Leet. It's kind of like when, if I could give you like a local colloquialism, when People's Drug became CVS, People's Drug is still around. It's just called CVS. That's that type of thing. I don't think they ever wanted to stop doing podcasting. I think they just went on hiatus, and they couldn't quite come back. I think the finality of, okay, we're closing things off now, I think was just not something they wanted to do. I would have liked more from them, but you know what? These are guys who had things to do in their lives. They made a lot of videos back in the day that I liked, and I'm glad that I got to know those guys, and I'm glad that they made what they made. See, here's the thing about Gooch and the Douchebag. This is something that I've only been able to experience like a couple of times in my life. I was fans of those guys first. I didn't know them first. I saw their videos, and I was like, these guys are awesome. And I deep dived into their channel. And I was like, you know what? These dudes are really awesome. And then I approached them about podcasting at some point, and we became friends. So I was like, people that I was like starstruck to meet, and then I got to know them. That was really, really awesome. And I'm thankful that I got to experience that in my life. So I don't want to be. I don't think it's fair to, for me anyway, to give them a hard time about how they left things. They did what they could. I think the only other time I ever experienced anything like that was in the punk rock world. When I decided to start listening to bands that were kids in the neighborhood and just rejecting MTV, which was where music was coming from at the time, and everything that was popular and all that stuff. I had similar experiences then of looking up local bands online and then going and meeting them and then getting to know them. That happened in a couple of cases, but it's really a good feeling. So that's like a cool Gooch in the Douchebag memory that I have. All right, he also writes, I'm not saying that it's bad that the PS2 is so cheap to collect for. I was just explaining the situation. It does have a handful of valuable titles. The 7.hack games come to mind. Yeah, man, I've seen some of these games that go for the PS2 that like are really expensive, but the thing that makes the PS2 awesome is that it has such a wide breadth of collection, right? You can get Mega Man collections for fairly cheap, $10, $15, something like that. They get really nice, fancy, polished 2D fighting games on the PS2. PS2 is a great system for 2D fighting games. Some of those games are going to go for a pretty penny, but hey man, if you want to do some real collecting, that's a good system to do it for. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the PS2 had some amazing shmups as well. The problem was, I don't know how region coding works on the PS2. Like, if you want to play a Japanese PS2 game, do I have to mod my PS2? Do I have to buy a Japanese PS2? How viable is it to buy a Japanese PS2? But I know there's some awesome PS2 shmups that you can import. I just don't know how to do it. Okay, and the final comment for the week, 1 hour and 35 minutes in, is from Alex Swingle, who writes, give me a second here. You know what? Give me a second. Let's sip my tea. Oh my gosh, I gotta coat the throat just a little bit. Though your attempt to correct the great injustice of missing out backlog comments, you skipped last week's comments by accident. I really want to hear your response over my take of a game that made me hate playing games. To me, the topic of digital versus physical doesn't matter. Newsflash, physical games are digital. The games don't load because of a genie stuck in the cartridge or the disc. It's ones and zeros being executed, known as digital. I agree with you. A game being downloaded or sold via disc is just a method to acquire the material desired. What matters is the future of DRM or non-DRM. Before it was the console being the DRM, where the disc only worked through the decoder known as the console. Now it's a subscription service that they can revoke at any time. Subscription is the future, and the game industry will do their best to mask their intentions until they gain full control over the ability to determine when and where you play the material you rented. One thing that has turned me off from the PS4 is the need to install every game. My brother bought a PS4 and asked me what the best hard drive he can get to upgrade his PS4. I asked why he told me he was required to install every game he inserted after 5 games. He needs to either... hold on a second. I mashed that together. Give me a second. I'm going to read that again. I asked him why he told me he was required to install every game, and he inserted every game he inserted, and after 5 games, he needs to either uninstall something or get more space. By the way, these massive files take nearly 20 minutes to transfer the data over to the hard drive. I'm not making giant patches either. I'm not talking giant patches either. Just to play. The Xboner isn't any better, and the Switch is a mess. I'm skipping this generation entirely, unless I get a PC port from the 8th generation console game, or I'm given the console for free. It is a trap. The strange thing is that the last gen I mostly skipped because of the horror stories of every console having high failure rates. Why invest in a platform that will explode at any minute? You know what? I thought that too. Everything else about the 360, PS3, and the Wii didn't bother me. Now I'm melancholy about the whole deal. Anyways, enough of me necro posting about a 6-year-old debate. Old Man Swingle will return to his hobbit hole and focus on the 20,000 games released over the last 3 decades instead. Dilemma avoided. You know what? You make some good points here. First and foremost, let's talk about the failure rate of the 360 generation. I was right there with you, and the only reason why I ended up with a 360 is because one was given to me for free by Tony Stemmen from Classic Elite. He acquired a 360 from, I believe it was IGN or something. One of those companies had a contest, and he won it, got himself a free 360, and let me have his old one. That's how I ended up with one. I wasn't going to buy one because you're talking about a console that had two major things I was upset about. One was the failure rate, and the other was paying for Xbox Live. Those are two things that both got under my skin in a big way. The failure rate is not as bad anymore. Like I haven't heard really the same stories about consoles just up and dying randomly. But the whole thing about paying for Xbox Live has gotten worse across the board. Now all of the companies do it, and it's even more expensive than it was in those days. So there you go. So there's where console gaming is. I'm interested to hear. I mean, the situation has changed a little bit. I mean, we've got a new generation now, but these days I'm more into fringe consoles. You know, that's why the Ouya was my baby when it came out. I had a lot of fun with that thing. I like to see. I built my computer. There you go. That's a fringe console. I wanted a console for the basement. I just built another computer. There you go. Problem solved. I would like to go over to somebody's house who's got a PS4 and an Xbox One or something like that. That's what I want to do. All right. Is that everything? Jeez Louise. Did we finally make it through everything? What an episode, boys and girls. My throat is literally sore. Give me a second here. All right, boys and girls. Whatever has brought you here 1 hour and 39 minutes and 45 seconds into Tiger Claw Radio, thanks for spending your time with me. Look, there's a lot of places you could be right now, things you could be doing. Time really is the world's most valuable currency, and I appreciate the time that you've spent here listening to me talk, hanging out, listening to some tunes, just talking about some video games, man. It's been fun. To those of you who are supporting the show, I'm going to get some supporters exclusive stuff out this week. I know I started that podcast, the after party, and the last one I think was in August. I put a lot of that extra effort into the Monster Cast. Well, now the Monster Cast is done. Two things are going to happen right now. I'm going to be working on this single page printout game magazine that I thought up over the summer. And I'm gonna get some supporter exclusive stuff out. Maybe like a vaporwave mixtape or something like that. I think it might be fun. I don't know. Keep your eyes peeled. We'll get something done. In the meantime, whatever you're doing right now, I hope that it's going well in your life. If you're on your way to work right now, if you're on your way to school, whatever it is that you're doing, just keep smashing through those problems. Just ball your fist up and let me tell you, whatever is the one thing that you really don't want to be doing right now that you know you have to do, I want you to ball your fists up and I want you to run right towards that thing. Because when you come out on the other side, let me tell you, that's the only real way to feel better about anything. And as you run towards those problems, with whatever the outcome could be, I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. And I hope that it goes well. And I'll see you next Monday.